Everybody joining me on the podcast today, longtime friend of any podcast I do, it is Matt Barbato. You can check him out at the Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. We're going to be previewing the Super Bowl here. Matt, first time we've done a video podcast. Good to see you after all these years of talking to you over the phone. Appreciate you jumping on.
I know, first time on video, but I feel like it's tradition now with the Super Bowl. It seems like last few years we've gotten on the phone, or in this case on the computer, and talk. So looking forward to doing it again with you, man.
I know last year when I was doing Talking Pro Football, you were on when we got to talk about Mr. Brady a little bit going into that one.
I was dead wrong on that one too.
I think I picked Tampa Bay last year, but I thought it was going to be close. But I think I remember saying the defensive, the tackles for Kansas City being out, which that's going to be a key in this one. And I'm sure before the season you had Cincinnati making the Super Bowl.
No, I kind of thought Cincinnati was maybe a sneaky team to maybe win their division, but no, I never saw this coming, and that's been kind of the season. It's just been, we've said all along, there's been no dominant team. I remember talking in the midseason, there's no dominant team, and that's kind of what prevailed in the playoffs. It was sort of a battle of who could screw it up the least, and those are the last two teams standing right now, the Rams and the Bengals. They found a way to not get in their own way.
I think I titled that episode you were on midseason. I said, who is good in the AFC? I think that was because that's when Kansas City was still struggling.
Right.
They hadn't hit their streak they hit on. And then the Bengals were good, but they were losing against probably teams that shouldn't lose to. The Titans were doing this. The Jets did beat the Titans and the Bengals this year.
That's what I'm saying. It's just been a wacky year.
Yeah, it's just been one of them years, and with the Rams, they're built for this game. This is where they're supposed to be. And I was talking to somebody last week. I said, the thing about it, everybody wants to congratulate Matthew Stafford. They got there with Jared Goff. They could probably get to a Super Bowl with him. All right, Matthew Stafford, this is where I think the pressure is now on, because they brought you here to win it, not get them there, because they got there with Goff, to get them to win it. And I think that's where this whole game, too, it's like the Bengals. They're early. They shouldn't have got to this point this early. They're ahead of schedule. So I feel like all the pressure in this game is on the Rams.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what are they going to do if they lose this game? You're not
at home. At home.
Yeah, not that, I don't know if there's like 50 actual LA Rams fans in LA, but you're in your home stadium, you're sleeping in your own bed all week. Like, this is what they built this team to do, to win the Super Bowl. I can't remember. I think it might have been SVP and Stanford Steve kind of compared it to, they are built like an NBA team where they are just a team of stars. And this is the moment, like you said, that it all has to pay off. The guys like Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Odell and Jalen Ramsey, all these guys that they brought in, and now they don't have a first round pick until like 2025 or something. This is, if they win this game on Sunday, it all pays off. And if they don't win this game on Sunday, it could be a nasty fall off for them. Maybe not next year, but like 2-3 years down the road, the Rams could be one of those teams circling the bottom of the drain in the NFL.
Yeah, it feels like almost, and maybe this is overreaction on my part, if they lose, there's going to be overreactions on the Rams side. So, okay, we built this team to do this. Like you do see, like if you see an NBA or Major League Baseball team build a team with free agents or draft or trading players like this, they don't blow it up. But it's like, okay, we got to do something drastic because something's not putting us over the top. I kind of fear with the Rams, maybe that's something like that may happen if they don't win it on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, and the worst part is they don't have many draft picks to really flesh out the rest of the roster. You could say, oh, they just need a couple pieces here and there, and they do. They are not a deep roster by any means, but they just don't have any cap space. They don't have any draft capital to address those needs. I mean, I'm not a big NBA fan, but look at the Brooklyn Nets right now. They were supposed to be the team to win it all last year, and now they're trading James Harden apparently, which I don't really know much about the NBA, but I was like, wait, I thought this team was all in going for it, and now they're trading one of their big three pieces. And yeah, like you said, the Rams could undergo a similar teardown because unless they want to go 5, maybe 10 years of being horrible and irrelevant, they might have to do that for the best of the franchise going forward.
And, going into this game, too, Matthew Stafford, he's played great. Only one interception, that tip pass against the 49ers. 6-1. He's a guy that you saw points there even this year that he had them times where he would throw a couple interception games. I think the month of November was very bad. for him. He's 72%. Of course, finally, and it is nice to see with him getting to the Super Bowl, getting success, because obviously the talent was always there. Just, who's going to win in Detroit? I mean, it's just not happening. What's been your take on Stafford here in the playoffs and how he's played versus kind of, we saw some up and down played in the regular season?
I think he's been great. I mean, you look at that Tampa Bay game, especially. He was phenomenal in that game. And I don't have his exact stat line in front of me, but he was the one guy who didn't make the mistake. It was Cam Akers dropping the ball twice. It was the horrible snap from the center. It was, I mean, I can't even recall all of the blunders that the Rams made in that game, and none of them involved Stafford. I mean, I remember when they played like Tennessee in the midseason. I can't remember who the other game was where it was against San Francisco, where he threw the back-breaking pick six on Monday night. And you would look at that Rams game, that Rams-Buccaneers divisional game, and ask yourself, how did the Bucs get back into this down so much? You would have thought, Stafford threw him back into the game. No, he was great. And then he delivers that beautiful pass to Cooper Kupp. Say what you want about the coverage. It was a terrible decision by Todd Bowles, and that's why he'll never get hired again as a head coach, to go zero coverage there. But, I mean, you still got to deliver that ball. And then you got to have the wherewithal to get down and clock it for the game-winning field goal. And he's been really good, and I think that's a testament to what Sean McVay's done from a game planning perspective. And, he's been able to curb himself and limit those turnovers. And, the big gunslinger decisions that he's made have paid off generally. I think he's been phenomenal. It's obvious he's the front runner to win Super Bowl MVP. And I think if he puts up another performance like he did against the Buccaneers, he'll easily win it. So, and it'd be deserved, because he would be the playoff MVP right now, I'd say.
And you got to think that if he wins the Super Bowl, he's kind of a lock for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's a huge legacy moment for him. I mean, if he just gets that one ring, and then you look at his stats from what he did in terrible Detroit, where he only had Calvin Johnson for a handful of years to throw to. Yeah, I think he'd be pretty close to cementing it. I've thought about that. I've wondered because I don't know what his exact contract situation is, but I've thought about the potential of Stafford maybe just riding off into the sunset and calling a career after this.
We're going to talk about a quarterback that may do that later, which we've had several. Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger.
He may be too young, but I mean, what else does the guy have to prove?
That is true. Hey, he can go back to Detroit and just say, hey, I went and got Super Bowl. I'll come back for you guys.
Well, that's like the Tom Brady meme I kept seeing around, is like it's him photoshopped into a Jets jersey, and that's like, okay, your final challenge before you retire, Tom, win a Super Bowl with the Jets. Maybe that's what Stafford will do with Detroit.
How does somebody? Okay, we're going to go off top a little bit. I've seen that meme. As somebody who has covered the Jets, as a fan of the Jets, how does that make you feel seeing that meme?
It's sad. And you know what the worst part is? I think if Brady came here, he still wouldn't win one. It would be the one team he would go to where he wouldn't win. Kind of like how Brett Favre, he has a stint with the Jets, and after a great career with the Packers, and he just can't get it done, and then he goes to Minnesota and leads them to he was an interception away from the Super Bowl. So, you know what, Tom would probably go to New York, spend about 6 weeks, and go, this ain't for me. I'm really retiring.
Yeah, I remember that year with Favre. I mean, everybody knows I'm Packer fan, so that's no hidden secret here. I just say this: weren't they like 8? They were 8-3 that year, and pretty much his arm was practically almost about to fall off, and then they lost like a bunch of games toward the end of the year. Because I remember they were like the best team in the AFC at one point.
Yeah,
that year.
Yeah. I think they lost like 6 of the last 7 or something down the stretch, and I think they might have even finished under 500 or 8-8. So yeah, that's life as a Jets fan, baby.
Well, I will admit this. I have never admitted this behind the microphone. I bought Jets gear that year.
Oh, because you're a big Favre guy. Okay.
I don't know where it's at, but there is a Jets visor somewhere in a box.
I still have my Favre jersey from when I was a kid.
I never got the jersey. I didn't get the jersey, but I did have the Jets visor, and I think I had a Jets T-shirt that I would wear on.
Printed out when he was on the cover of Madden that year because they thought he was retiring, and then they like had a downloadable one where he was in a Jets uniform. So I printed that one out and like stuck it into the inside cover of the game. So I was all in on Favre, and of course it didn't work out for us.
I was too. Well, anyways, we have got off track. That's my fault.
I'm sorry.
Bro.
That's bad. The Jets just get us to that point. They always seem to tank whatever you're trying to do. So,
But we now know we have more of a common bond now that for 1 year, and I knew what it was like to be a Jets fan because the way I did it, the Packers and the Jets did not play each other.
yep.
So I rationalized I was a Favre fan, but I was still a Packer fan. So I supported the Packers. But when the Jets were playing, I was rooting for it. I don't know what I would have done had they played each other in the Super Bowl. That would have been. I would have been that person that wore like a half Packers hat. I don't know what I would have done.
No, you can't be that guy. You got to pick a side one way or the other.
Now, when he went to the Vikings, I kind of was like, okay, Brett, I hope you have a good year, but lose to the Packers. That was my mindset for this. But
Brett.
and going into this match, on the Bengals side, I mean, Joe Burrow. I mean, of course, what he did in college. I mean, year 2, and now year 2, and really not year 2 because he played 6 games his rookie year.
Yeah.
And then going through that injury, going through what he did this year, then they go get Jamar Chase. Look, I was against that draft pick. I'll be honest. I thought Penei Sewell was sitting there.
I was too.
Get an offensive lineman. And obviously, it's just amazing what they've been able to do despite that bad offensive line to get to this point. I mean, he got sacked 9 times against the Titans. But they keep finding a way. I mean, it's just the Cinderella story with the Bengals. What they've been able to do has been quite impressive.
It has been, and it's amazing. Zach Taylor had won 6 games as Bengals head coach, and then all of a sudden they go 10-7. They win what I will say was a down AFC North. Let's just throw that out there as a disclaimer. You had the Ravens were banged up before the season even started, and then the Steelers were, with Big Ben, just were never a threat, and then Cleveland just couldn't get it together with Baker. So, but they've found ways to win, and I don't know. It's just they are the team that really has just sort of figured out a way to just kind of get through these playoffs without shooting themselves in the foot. The Raiders, they almost, the Raiders, if Derek Carr doesn't clock the ball on the 10-yard line at the end of the game on first down, maybe they go in and score and tie or win the game. The Titans, Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions in that game, a couple in the red zone, I think. They kind of threw that one away, and it came down to a last-second field goal. And then the Chiefs game, I'm watching this game, and I just don't understand how Kansas City is letting this happen. And that's not to diminish anything that Burrow and the Bengals have done. They've still made plays, and Jamar Chase is awesome, and they have a bright future, no doubt. It's just it's just shocking to me that they're here with a coach that I've never believed in, and a quarterback behind a horrible offensive line. It's truly a Cinderella ride.
And the thing with Burrow, and again, it dates back to LSU. Even his first year at LSU, he went into Auburn and won.
Yeah,
his first year as the starting quarterback there, and that's not an easy place to go in and win.
Right.
And then what he did his second year, 19, winning, all the records he broke. He's the kind of guy. He has, I think, his confidence leaks off into his teammates. And there's no moment. I just don't think he cares. It's just to the point. What I mean, I say don't care is that no moment's too big for him. He's just going to go in there. He's going to play ball. He's going to do the right things. You don't see him make a lot of stupid throws, like bad throws. And that's kind of like going into this game. It's kind of weird saying it. Of the 2 quarterbacks you think that could lose the game, I think it's Stafford, not Burrow. Yeah. I don't feel like this moment's going to get too big for Burrow. I don't feel like he's going to make the big time mistakes that are really going to cost the Bengals on Sunday.
Yeah, I think I agree. If there was a prop on who's more likely to throw an interception, I think I would say Stafford. And imagine Burrow's psyche. You come out of winning the national title at LSU, you have this meteoric rise after transferring to Ohio State. Then you get drafted to the Bengals. And then you're having a good rookie year, but then your offensive line, who didn't protect you all season and got you killed all season, finally delivers the final shot. And you, what did he suffer? Torn ACL, pretty much destroyed his knee.
Yeah.
And just the psyche that he's had this season to come back and play as well as he has, and just play with so much confidence and moxie, and just I thought the way he was able to get the ball out fast against the Chiefs in the AFC title game was excellent. And that might be the way they can neutralize the Rams in this matchup. But, man, you get the snot kicked out of you by the Titans, and you keep coming back. And it's just – I think he's going to be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. And, this could be sort of a turning point moment for him. it's very interesting. I can't believe how they're here, but it's just Joey Burrow magic, I guess.
So looking at the matchup, I mean, obviously everybody's pointing to the Bengals offensive line versus the Rams defensive front with Aaron Donald, Von Miller going to come off some, he's going to give pressure to as well. Is that for you the biggest matchup, or is there any other matchups in this game you're really looking at?
I want to see what the Rams do in coverage, and obviously Donald, Miller, Leonard Floyd against that Bengals offensive line will probably be the key matchup, and it's a big part of my thought process for this game. But unlike the Chiefs, unlike the Titans, unlike the Raiders, the Rams have a guy who can go one-on-one with Jamar Chase. And I'm not saying he's going to win the battle, but I think he can limit Chase more than what these past teams have done. Now, the Rams do play a lot of zone coverage, so I'm curious to see how they handle that. But I think at the very least, you're going to see Ramsey shadowing Chase wherever he lines up when he lines up on the outside. And if they opt to go man coverage, I mean, Chase is a monster, but Ramsey is one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and I would give the veteran the advantage in that matchup. So that's what I'm very curious to see. How do the Rams sort of handle their coverage? Do they stick to sort of their zone and just rush with 4? Do they maybe get a little bit more aggressive and send some blitzes after Burrow, something he's kind of exploited all year long? How do they sort of handle their back end? Because outside of Ramsey, it's not the best secondary in the world. And, they've got Eric Weddle signed off the street. I think a couple of their key players like Taylor Rapp might get back for this game, but they're hurt too. So that's going to be the key to me because it's not just Chase either. It's T. Higgins. It's Tyler Boyd. If Uzama plays, he's a threat in the red zone and short distance passing. So the Bengals have arguably the best receiving core in the league. I want to see how the Rams counter that.
Hey, and then you got Joe Mixon out of the backfield.
Yep. They have a lot of talent. I mean, it's pretty remarkable the talent they've assembled on the offensive side of the ball so quickly. I think T. Higgins personally could be a number 1 receiver probably anywhere else but maybe Cincinnati and Kansas City. He's an immensely talented guy, and that's their number 2. So how are the Rams going to sort of scheme against that? Are they going to send Ramsey on single coverage and maybe bracket Higgins and say Tyler Boyd, CJ Uzama, Joe Mixon beat us? Are they going to play their traditional zone and just hope that Burrow doesn't pick him apart and hope that Donald and Miller get to him fast enough where he can't pick him apart? That's sort of the schematic matchup is what I'm really interested in.
I'm intrigued what the Bengals do on defense too as well. The defense they went with against Kansas City where they pretty much rushed 3, had one guy spy and just dropped everybody else. Obviously, I don't think you do that against the Rams because, Matthew Stafford pretty stationary in the pocket. I mean, he can get out and make some plays, which is like if he has to, but that's just not his game. So, I mean, how the Bengals will go about this defensively, you got Trey Henderson. Can they get some pressure on Stafford, maybe force some mistakes, with Stafford? I think it's intriguing what the Bengals do defensively because they've kind of showed different looks throughout the entire playoffs, whether, just based on who they've been playing.
Yeah, they really have. And I think it's going to come down to can they get pressure with 4? Because if they're forced to blitz, Stafford is going to destroy them. I'm just looking it up now, and Cincinnati was one of the teams that blitzed the least in the NFL last year or this year. So that was sort of my big handicap with the Buccaneers game and why I like the Rams was the Buccaneers blitzed at such a high rate, and Stafford's been such an effective quarterback against the blitz this year, and that pretty much came true. I think it's going to be a different case with the Bengals defense. If Hendrickson can get home, if that defensive line can win up front, it might cause Stafford and the Rams offense to have a pretty long day. But other than Hendrickson, I don't know. I just don't see the talent on that side. The Rams offensive line has been really sturdy all year. They've been reliable in pass protection. And I kind of think the Rams are going to win that battle in the trenches.
Yeah, another thing, like you said, if you have to blitz, that means now you're putting your DBs on an island.
Yeah.
And that's something you do not want to do against Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham. I mean,
right.
that's. I mean, we saw it happen to the Buccaneers when they blitzed. They went all out on that, and you leave Cooper Kupp 1-on-1. He's probably going to beat whoever you have on him most of the time if you're in that situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and it's kind of interesting that the Bengals, for all they've done, everyone says they've really drafted and developed, and that's true. But it's mainly on the offense. The defense is a lot of free agents like Hendrickson and Chidobe Awuzie and Eli Apple and all these cast-offs. from other teams who have sort of cobbled together a decent unit. But and I rely on do you rely on DVOA a lot?
Mm-hmm. I've seen some stuff with it. Yeah.
Well, kind of, yeah, it just sort of ranks teams based on like it adjusts for schedule essentially and quality of teams you played. And it surprised me last week when I had to do an early betting preview for betting pros. It surprised me to see that Cincinnati was only ranked like 19th defensively in DVOA and 24th against the pass. So that's something to sort of monitor too, is can that Bengals secondary contain not only Kupp, but Odell and, maybe even Van Jefferson downfield.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, both with secondaries. I mean, how that's going to work. I mean, because these are two good receiving cores anyway. So how that goes down is going to be interesting. So now we lead up to who you like in the game. This one for me has been hard because you can go with your mind or your gut. And it's two different teams for me. I know the Rams come in, they're 4.5 favorite. Like I said, they're home team, but not the crowd part's not. I think the big part about that is just they're more comfortable. Like you said earlier, they're sleeping in their own beds. They're not, having to travel like the Bengals. The over under this game is 48.5 points. Where are you leaning at as we record this on a Wednesday heading to the Super Bowl?
So Phillip, last year I made the mistake. I when you asked me to come on, I kept thinking about our conversation last year, and I kept saying, yeah, the Buccaneers have really good pass rushers, but I don't know if it's going to matter. It's Patrick Mahomes. Well, a year later, we found out that it matters. And I can't make the same mistake. And I'm not just picking this game based on what happened last year, but it's sort of a similar logic. The best unit in this game are the Rams. Maybe not the Rams receivers, but definitely the Rams defensive line is probably one of the top two units in this game. And the Bengals offensive line is probably the worst unit in this game. And I just, I think that's a matchup that the Rams will exploit. I'm definitely worried about Joe Burrow just saying, I don't care. I can get sacked 18 times in this game. I'm still going to deliver the ball. But Ryan Tannehill isn't on the other sideline this time around. It's Matthew Stafford. And I just think the Rams, like we said at the beginning, were sort of built for this game. Their stars match up well with Cincinnati. You've got Beckham and Kupp who can exploit a kind of weak secondary. You've got Donald and Miller who can sort of cause havoc against a weak Bengals offensive line. And then you've got Stafford, who I think, he might be the guy who can lose you the game, but I also think he has just as high of a ceiling as Burrow does, if
definitely.
not higher, because of the experience. And I just like the fact that the Rams and McVay have been here before. And I don't trust Zach Taylor very much. I love Burrow. I love Chase, but I think when the pressure's on, I don't know if I trust Zach Taylor over Sean McVay in a Super Bowl. So I am going with the Rams. I haven't bet on it yet because I don't like the number at 4.5. I'm hoping to get it maybe 3.5. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe some Bengals money will push it down. But my pick would be the Rams. And then I think I would take the under, actually. I could see this being kind of a grinded out, low scoring game, especially in the first half. I actually like the first quarter under a lot at 9.5 points.
So I'm going to let everybody know where I'm going with it. My head, everything I know about football tells me to pick the Rams. But my gut says don't pick against Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I've seen him in college, seen what he's doing in NFL. I'm going to go with the Bengals. I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, obviously the offensive line is going to be an issue. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, I feel like my head should be saying pick the Rams, but I don't know. I'm just going to go with my gut on this. I think the Bengals are going to upset them and win the championship.
You know what? In a year where it seems like everything has kind of just been thrown out of the window in terms of conventional wisdom, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just Joe Burrow and that's all that matters, and we could look back on this Bengals team 10 years from now and go, how did they win a Super Bowl? But that's the thing. I mean, all you got to do is just win one game. If there's a quarterback who is I would trust to win one game right now, other than Tom Brady and maybe Rodgers, Burrow's definitely up there with the way he's delivered for the Bengals consistently, despite all the adversity. I just think if the Bengals sort of get into a rut where maybe they don't score for a couple of possessions, unlike Tennessee, unlike the Raiders, and the Chiefs did it to them in the first half, they could get buried, and it's going to be a
Yeah.
lot harder to climb out of a 21-3 hole in the Super Bowl than it will be in the AFC title game, I think. So I'm not saying the game will get out of hand, but going with the Rams, I'm trusting the team that's been there before with the quarterback who I think, will deliver one more great performance to his potential Hall of Fame legacy.
We'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a good game. Things gonna come down to the wire. And before I let you go, of course, this all season it's gonna be all about the quarterbacks. There's going to be a lot of quarterback conversation, not necessarily drafting quarterbacks. Quarterbacks on rosters or going to free agency. Will they be traded? Stuff like that. So, rapid fire. I got 5 quarterbacks named wrote down here, and I'm going to ask you, where do you see them playing in 2022 season?
Oh boy,
we're going to start off, and this would have been 4, but some recent news added a 5th quarterback, Kyler Murray.
I think he's going to be in Arizona. I don't blame him for wanting to get away from Cliff Kingsbury, but you're a little too young and you're a little too unproven to be sort of pulling your weight and trying to get a trade. I mean, I understand that Cliff Kingsbury is not a great coach, but this offense didn't have DeAndre Hopkins for a big chunk of the year. I don't see the Cardinals doing anything with Kyler Murray. I think they'll do what they need to make him happy.
All right. The second one, Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's a hard one. So I was telling you off air before we started, I wrote down a list of teams just off the top of my head that needed quarterbacks. And I have Washington, Philly, Miami, Pittsburgh, Houston, Indianapolis, Carolina, Denver, and Las Vegas. I don't think I'm missing anybody there.
Green Bay might need one.
Green Bay may need one, but I think they're going to stick with Jordan Love. Otherwise, I think I covered the obvious names. I'm going to say Jimmy Garoppolo is a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Okay. I've seen that one float around. A lot of people say that should be someone they should go get because they're the roster's kind of built to win. And Jimmy Garoppolo has shown when the parts around him are good, he can get you, he can get you far.
Yeah. No, the Steelers definitely need to rebuild that offensive line, and maybe Garoppolo is not the best fit because of that, but they just endured a season with Big Ben, who is never going to move out of the pocket. So, and I think Garoppolo might be the cheapest to get. Like Pittsburgh has the 20th pick, so they may be out of reach for a rookie, maybe not in this year's class, but like you said, the roster is kind of built to win now with that defense and Najee Harris and some good weapons on the outside. If they can kind of quickly rebuild the O-line, Garoppolo may just cost them like a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and you can kind of plug him in and then maybe worry about your future in the draft and find that rookie later on.
So the third one, he made news last year on the Dan Patrick show around this time, Russell Wilson.
I put Wilson down for Philadelphia.
Wow. Okay.
I think I am, and maybe this is just me being biased against Jalen Hurts because I just have not liked him all year. And I kind of faded him a lot in fantasy football. I kind of think the Eagles are looking to get out of the Jalen Hurts experience. And when I look at how their team is situated, I mean, they made the playoffs this year. And while Hurts is definitely a dynamic athlete, I think he's a step below his most common comparison, Lamar Jackson, as a passer. So I could see a deal happening where maybe, Philly sends Hurts and 2 of their first-round picks to Seattle, who desperately needs to sort of reload their roster, and maybe a couple other draft picks, and they get Wilson, who has a similar skill set. He's not quite as mobile, but he's a much better thrower, and I think he would do much better with Sirianni and what that team's got.
So next up, the 4th one, the greatest regular season quarterback to ever play the game, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I would say, honestly, he's not the best. He's not the GOAT. That's Brady, but in my opinion, he is the best pure passer in the NFL, like the thrower of the football. He is the best. This is the one that I said off air was going to maybe surprise you. I'm going with Indy. I think Indy realizes that they were a quarterback away from being a serious Super Bowl contender. I could kind of see the Colts and Chris Ballard maybe going the route of pushing the chips in. They've got a great offensive line right now, but We know just by looking at Dallas's offensive line how quickly that can deteriorate in just a couple of years.
Yeah.
They've got the young stud in Jonathan Taylor, who's still fresh and is still on his rookie deal. And I think with a couple tweaks to the roster, they could be a Super Bowl contender. They're just that quarterback away, and Wentz limited them so much. I know Denver's the conventional choice here, but I don't know. I just think Rodgers kind of controls his fate in this a little bit too. And I don't know if he wants to go to a division featuring Mahomes and Justin Herbert. I think the AFC South is a much easier path to at least a playoff berth. And I could see the Colts, they traded away a first-round pick for Carson Wentz this year. I could see them really pushing the chips in and going all in.
What will you be in your mind the odds of him returning to Green Bay?
If they had just won that 49ers game, I would probably say it's like 50, 60%, but right, I would say like 25%. I think there's a little bit of hope that they work something out, but just the way things ended with that team, and now they're sort of in a position where they kind of have to rebuild it or at least restructure that roster a little bit. They're probably going to take a step back. And Rodgers said he doesn't want to be a part of that. So I could see the Packers just blowing it up, and he's the first sort of bomb to go off.
And then finally, this last guy, this is all requiring, all the legal stuff gets sorted out and everything. But if Deshaun Watson is playing football this upcoming in 2022, where do you see him playing?
Okay, if he's playing football, I would say Carolina. I think he'd be a good fit with that offense with Christian McCaffrey. His mobility, along with McCaffrey in the backfield, could make for some really, really cool offensive designs. I think Carolina is another team that could be pretty decent if they just had the quarterback sorted out. And they're I don't know their exact draft situation, but they've got the 6th pick this year. That's a start for a trade, and maybe they make a move, assuming the legal troubles get worked out and they can get a discount for him. So I would go Carolina for Watson if he's playing. If not, if his legal stuff hasn't been cleared, he's still in Houston.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a fun offseason with these quarterbacks, because the quarterback draft class does not look all that good. So what we got coming out of college is not as good as we've had the last couple of years. So obviously, you can upgrade through not free agency, but trading. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting Super Bowl, and Matt, I appreciate you taking the time. It's been a lot of fun. Once again, previewing the Super Bowl another year with you, talking these quarterbacks. If the listeners and viewers wanted to get you online, where can they find you on the work you're doing?
Yeah, so you can check out my work at fantasypros.com and bettingpros.com. And then you can follow us at fantasypros, at bettingpros on Twitter. And then you can follow me at Real Matt Barbato. Are you interested in a few props before we get off?
What you got?
All right. So this is going to be a little predictable. I'm going to say Cooper Kupp over receiving yards. I think he's at like 106 right now. I just don't see the Bengals shutting him down. They might be able to limit him, but he's going to get his. I also like his over longest reception at 27.5 yards. I think he's going to connect on a deep shot with Stafford at some point in the game. And then another guy who I'm buying on, T. Higgins. Like I kind of said, I think Jalen Ramsey is going to be focusing on Chase. And I expect T. Higgins to have a big game because of that. So I like his over. I think I got 60.5 receiving yards. It might be a little higher now, but I like T. Higgins a lot. And then first quarter under. 14 of the last 22 Super Bowls, the total in the first quarter has been fewer than 10 points. So teams sort of start to start that game slow, sort of feeling things out, maybe nerves come into play. So I'm anticipating a low-scoring first quarter, and then maybe things get explosive as the game goes on.
All right, that sounds good. I like it. The Cooper Kupp one, especially with him. I mean, I feel there's probably a bunch on him going into this. Mr. Triple Crown, as it feels like Al Michaels pushes out more than any other broadcaster here in the playoffs.
Yeah,
but obviously the Triple Crown winner in Cooper Kupp. But anyways, Matt, this has been a lot of fun once again having you on, and I look forward to doing this again sometime down the road.
Phillip, you know where to find me.